So let's take a look at the solutions. So question 1, we want to give an example of each: a task, an appointment, a contact, and a project. So an example in that list of a task, Mary Lou's screensaver. An appointment, well, there's a meeting today at 3:30, so if you have to be in a certain place at a certain time, that sounds like an appointment. A contact, you're either going to phone the person, send an email, have a video conference. A client left a message and asked you to call them back. And finally, there are a number of projects in that list, and I think the item that says about the CC Mail to do some research and create a migration plan to a newer email system, that would be an example of a project. That's not something you're going to get done in 10 minutes or even in 10 hours. That's a pretty big project. Now, the reason why this is so important: when you get hired in a new job, you're looking down the list of things you have to do. And you're not just doing them, you're also trying to understand your job. And the reason why it's important is, well, depending on your work style and your job orientation, you're going to be using different software. So if your job is mostly task-oriented, you'll be using a task manager. If you spend all your day on the phone or in meetings, if you spend all your time in appointments or in meetings, you're going to probably make heavy use of a calendar. And likewise, if you're on the phone or sending emails all day, you need client management, contact management software. And later on in this course, we will be looking at project management software for managing our projects. Now, if we go through that list, that job we just got hired in, we can see we have a couple of appointments and maybe there's 1 or 2 projects, but for the most part, it's a task-oriented job. Question number 3, give an example of a job for each one. So an example of a job that is mostly task-oriented, that would be computing support. A job that is appointment-oriented, a doctor or a dentist. Contact-oriented, that would be a client management or a call center. And who spends their whole day working on projects? That would be an engineer or a software developer. And there are many other examples that you could have mentioned. Now, for question number 4, you want to create the following table. So let me quickly show you how you would do that. You would just simply go to the Insert menu and then click on Insert, and that's how you would create a table. So in this table here, we have 4 different categories. This is question number 4. Now, I'd like to mention, when you get hired in a job, nobody is going to tell you the categories. Nobody's going to break it up for you. You're going to have to figure this out. We're lucky it's being given to us here. It turns out that this list of items we need to complete, they fall into 4 basic categories. They can be classified as such. Either you're doing work for the company, internal support, or work for a customer or client. That would be client support. If you're making a purchase order, that would be purchasing. And if you're just organizing the hardware and software in somewhere, that is called hardware and software control. And I'd like to emphasize, this is not given to you in a job. Usually you have to figure this out. And how do you know that you've properly classified or categorized things? It should be a short list. Okay, if you have 100 different categories, that's not something that's manageable. We want it nice and short, 3, 4, 5 categories, and they should be mutually exclusive. So if you look at an item and you say, well, it's kind of internal support, but it's sort of purchasing, or if it's not mutually exclusive, if it doesn't fall into just one category, then you need to rethink that category list. So we're fortunate here. It's been given to us, but in a real job, you may have to go through this 2 or 3 different times until you get the correct categories. Now, let's start classifying. Item A. Item A, meeting today to discuss network upgrades. It's obviously for our company, not for a client. So that's internal support. Item B, again, upgrading the email server or migrating to a newer email server, and we have to write up a plan for that migration process. Again, that is internal support. Item C, software audits are done twice a year. This is how the company keeps track of all the installed software. There's no exact date when this needs to be done, but the last one was completed 4 months ago. That sounds like hardware software control. So I'll put C underneath hardware software control. We'll go on to D. Mary Lou's screensaver has a problem. Well, it doesn't mention here that she's a client, so we can assume this is internal support. A client left a message and you need to call them back. That's obviously client support, so we'll put that one in there. The inventory room is a mess. Organize all the hardware and software so that everything can be found easily. So that is F. That sounds like hardware software control, getting everything organized. Currently, there is no record of the existing hardware in the company. You're given a roll of inventory stickers. You have to label every piece of computer hardware and then create a database with all that information. So, where are the printers? Where are the computers and monitors? So we'll be looking at databases in Module 10. But for now, that sounds like hardware software control again. So we will put G in there. And then it's been decided that all senior managers should have smartphones or handheld computers. Do some research and make a recommendation on which smartphones our company should be purchasing. So that is part of your purchasing role in this job. So we'll put H over there. And then phone your supplier, your current supplier, Dell or HP, and order 3 high-end laptops. So again, another purchasing item. David's sound card doesn't work, and he needs it to do demos for his client. So that would be, it's tempting to put it under client support, but really David works for our company and you're doing support for a person in our company. So how do you know you have the right categories? It tends to fall into one category only, but if you're putting it in multiple categories, then maybe you need to rethink your classification system for your job. Let's continue. Mary Aziz, her sound card isn't working either. She's a recent immigrant from Iraq, and most of her family is still there. Every morning she listens to an online radio station that broadcasts from her country. Okay, so again, it doesn't say that she's a client, so we can assume this is internal support. So we will put K there. And I made a mistake with J. So let me put J where it belongs. J is also internal support. So I'll correct that, and we'll go on to the next item. Jeff's sound card isn't working and he wants to listen to music. So L is again internal support. Now this is interesting. We're going to return to this. J, K, and L are all about sound cards for people, for employees who work in our company, but we can see they are different priorities. Okay, so just because items are classified the same way doesn't mean they have the same priority, and we're going to be returning to this in job analysis part 2. The company internet connection is down. You got to fix it. So that's M. And if it's for your own company, not for a client, it's internal support. And N, a new programmer starts on Monday. Get everything ready for him on his desk. So that sounds like internal support, N. But that's a funny one because don't you have to get those computers from the inventory room? So if you also placed it here under hardware, software control, that would be correct as well. So again, this is showing a weakness in our classification system. We really want to classify everything in just one category. If this happens a lot, then you have to rethink your category system. But I think it's a good category system for now. We'll leave it as it is. The Initech released a patch, so software is buggy. We're a software company, and 2 clients need your help in installing that update or that software patch. We need to update software and operating systems on a constant basis, and we're doing this for a client, so this is client support. So let me see what letter that is again. That is P. So we'll put P under client support. Let's keep going. We're almost finished. Let's see what else we have to do. The last one, the laser printer is down. And again, this is for our own company. This is internal support. So we'll put it right there. Now, let's take a look at this. We just walked in off the street. Okay, we're overwhelmed by our to-do list. We have a lot of things to do here, but we already understand a lot of things here. We can see that our job is mostly task-oriented. We're spending most of our time doing tasks. However, we do have to occasionally sit in on a meeting or go to an appointment. We occasionally have to call people or send emails, and we do have 1 or 2 projects that we have to work on. So we can see our work style is mostly task-oriented. And what are the different categories? Well, we got to call a client. We have to make some orders, purchase orders, or do a bit of organizing, but it's mostly internal support.